everybody, welcome to my show, To Be Determined. And today we're going to discuss cyberbullying, cyberpredation, and everything else that comes with the attack of social media. On our show today, we have Dr. Edwards, professor in the MCS department, a mother, a wife, an advisor, a boss. So how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for that introduction. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm happy you're here today. So your research on cyberbullying and cyberpredation has lasted for the past 10 years?
Yes.
10 years.
It began in 2009 with a student who wanted to do a project in which she would create a fake Facebook page account for herself, pretending to be 12, and waiting for pedophiles to approach her, and then she was going to interview them online. I said that that was the worst idea ever, and instead reached out to a computer science professor to help us develop a computer system that could read pedophiles' comments, that could sort of analyze transcripts from the TV show Perverted Justice, To Catch a Predator. And that would allow us to see the texts of what these sorts of men would say to young kids without having to actually interact with them. And that's what started all of our research.
That's very interesting. So it started from one kid just trying to make a difference to you then finding the right way for that kid to make a difference.
Not only has her research made a difference for, I think, cyberpredation victims and cyberbully victims, it's also made a huge difference for students on our sciences campus, and that they've been able to participate in this research with us. And she's also now continuing to make a difference as an assistant DA in Maryland. So this work got her all the way into law school and beyond. So yeah, it's been kind of amazing.
Okay, great start.
Yeah.
Great start. But so for all the guests out there that don't really understand what cyberbullying is, could you just give a brief overview of what that is?
Okay. Cyberbullying is very similar to bullying face-to-face. Instead, you're just using an electronic device to do it. And in cyberbullying, rather than punching and hitting another kid, you're literally using words that are designed to hurt their feelings, to potentially reveal secret information that these kids have shared with you, sometimes to pretend to be that kid while sending hurtful messages to others, enticing a youth or a friend to send you illicit photos, which you then either threaten to expose or you send to others to expose them to. And in all ways, just really kind of embarrassing another kid in front of a large, mostly anonymous audience.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So now that we understand that, I think we want to know what it is that kids do that allow bullies to chase them on social media.
Okay, so I'm going to have to throw a slight flag on the play there because it sounds like you're suggesting that victims kind of bring this on themselves.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people in the world see it that way too, that simply being online, you're putting yourself at risk and it's your fault. But that's not the case at all. What happens is there are just some really crappy people out there, and no matter what you do, how much you attempt to protect yourself, it's really not possible to stop someone from bullying you. What we can do is assist schools and parents in catching the kids who do this, and ideally enabling kids to protect themselves, to document the event so that they've got a record to show to the authorities. But primarily my main interest with our research is giving these kids the tools to sort of survive online and to be able to come back online safely after an event like this. Because a lot of kids, the way their parents try to protect them is once an event like this has happened, they've taken their kids' devices and said that you can't go online because it's dangerous there, and what they've ended up doing is really kind of further isolating their kid from friends and resources that are online. And so what we're trying to do is kind of shield the kid. Well, I wouldn't say shield. I'm thinking Game of Thrones. And I really can't say that we give them swords, but what we can do is give them like the tools and resources to get back online in a way that's safe and allows them to begin healing if they've been bullied.
Okay. So now that you threw a flag on my play, I'm going to throw a curveball at you.
Oh, come on.
And I'm going to ask you, for those people who believe that free speech is free speech, what do you say to those angry kids who are bullying these victims? Should that be allowed because it's just speech?
I think, similar to what happens offline, it is possible to bully a kid and not even be aware that you're doing it, because we live in a society that tells jokes, and hurtful jokes are the ways that we sometimes build friendships. And so the fact that it's very difficult to always know intention, or to always know the impact it's going to have on a particularly fragile youth, it's difficult to argue against free speech rights, which is why my bigger argument is I should be able to prepare my kid for anything that anybody might say to them anywhere. And in the process of working through that, if someone else crosses a line to a level of speech that potentially gets my kid injured. So for example, we've seen cases where kids have misrepresented cases online and led others to believe that their target was actually a bad guy that needed to be beaten up or turned into the police. Rather, what I want my kids to be able to do is say, you know, what you're saying is inappropriate, shut it down, stand up, rally up their resources to back their play, but then also reach out to the people who are actually paid and trained to deal with these incidents that have gone above and beyond just mean words or hurt feelings.
Okay. So I think that's important to know, because free speech is something that we can't deny each other, especially in this country.
Right.
And it's our job, or not my job, but your job as a parent to be able to teach your kid to stand up for yourself. Right.
And actually, it's our job.
It's my job too.
You're a human being and an American citizen. Okay. But here's where things get tricky.
Okay.
The thing with cyberspace is you never know who's on the other side of the keyboard. And so when we start looking not at cyberbullying but at cyber predation, we are looking at speech that isn't protected, because now we're looking at adults who are saying things to kids that aren't just inappropriate but are illegal. Attempting to entice a kid to come meet you someplace for sexual activities, or, you know, if you present them as fun activities but you have these ulterior motives, that's illegal. And so one of the things that my co-PI and I have discovered is that when an online predator is attempting to reach a kid and to determine if they're actually talking to a kid, one of the first things they ask is ASL, age, sex, location. And so we were able to train our computers to look for that question. And if the kid responds with a number under 17, and the adult continues talking to them, we now have this sort of mens rea evidence that says, by nature of the fact that you asked how old this kid was,
you knew what you were doing.
Exactly, and especially when you continue talking to them in ways that are highly sexualized, highly problematic, that attempt to get the kid to hide these texts from their parents and to attempt to get the kid to meet you someplace. All illegal activities.
So how do these kids get on any type of social media that have these predators on them? Is it Instagram? Like, where do they find?
Well, part of our research is looking to determine how the predators know that they're talking to kids or how they seek out their victims. Many kids don't have their Instagram accounts or their social media, like Facebook accounts, set to the highest level of privacy. Any images that they may have of themselves online. What we also discovered early in our research is that certain usernames, like Britney2X or smiley faces and cutie pie names, are like a dead giveaway for some online predators. And the fact that kids usually tend to use variations of the same username across different platforms, so do online predators. And so the same behaviors that these kids use that kind of may serve as a beacon to these guys, these same predators use to used to find the kids and can be used to catch the predators.
That's disgusting.
Really troubling and disturbing for me is the number of stories that I hear from people every time I talk about my research. So I think one of the first times I shared my research with students in a class of mine, I learned that one of their friends had actually been a victim of a cyber predator.
Oh, wow.
He was a young kid in middle school, didn't have a lot of friends, and was online talking to a guy who said he had a son the same age and invited my student's friend to come meet him and his son to play baseball, only to discover there was no other son. But by that point, this young boy felt like this man was his friend, and so for several months engaged in, you know, problematic behaviors with this man. And once he was discovered, that gentleman was arrested, but the kid himself was traumatized. And the way that he dealt with his trauma was by going back into chat rooms, pretending to be an officer and scaring other pedophiles by saying he was coming to get them, pretending to come to arrest them. And I think for several years after that, he was then in counseling. But the toll that it took on him and his family, I believe his parents divorced after that. It's the reach of these men is just really disturbing. And so I'm really glad that we've got the chance to do this research where maybe we can start putting a stop to that.
Of course. Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us the information we need to try ourselves to help, because we are all a part of this community, whether it be Ursinus or the world.
Right. No, thank you.
Yeah, we have to take care of each other, and I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
No doubt. Thank you for having me here.
All right. Thank you for joining us. If you have any comments to add to our discussion today, please comment below. Thank you.